Yo, Robbie, welcome back to another episode of 𝗖𝗥 𝗖𝗙. How are you
What's up?
today?
I
Good?
am
Everything cool?
absolutely amazing.
Are you ready to get in this episode? All right,
Heck yeah.
I think I'm gonna start you off with some wholesome gym bro vibes here.
Okay.
Um, let's see what we got for the video of the day.
It's always a surprise.
Yeah, so TikTok is amazing. Watch this.
Can
Excuse me.
I?
How much longer are you gonna be on here?
I got like 15 more minutes.
15.
Yeah.
Can I just hop in with you?
How would you do that?
What are you doing after this?
Guys, remember, it's really important when you're at the gym to respect people's personal space, especially when you're doing cardio. Hey, can you turn the speed up a little bit? Thank you. You smell really good.
Excuse me. How much longer?
Oh man, I love Joey Swole. Like he is so epic.
Dude, so when we were at Redcon 1 this last weekend, so Jacob, my buddy Jacob, he's like 3 weeks out from his show. And so he's having to do his cardio. And so he's doing it in the morning. We all go to Redcon. I jump in with Kai while he's doing his and talk to him.
So y'all both get behind Kyle while he on a stair.
No.
Mess.
Well, Jacob and Chad are on like the other side of the gym where the treadmills are. And they were telling me about it later. Apparently there was some dude that went up to Jacob and like the treadmill that Jacob was on is like the treadmill, I guess, that guy always uses. And so he is like harassing Jacob, just like, how much longer do you have? How much longer do you have? And he got on the treadmill beside Jacob. And then when Jacob got off, didn't even shut his treadmill off and like jumped right onto the treadmill by Jacob. Like, like what? What? Who does that?
Like, it's that treadmill. Like, that's just the one that they gotta have. You know what I mean? Ain't no sacrifice. Ain't no lacking out here in these streets when you need that one piece of equipment that they have multiple of in a gym. There ain't no lacking out here. You know, that's crazy because we talked about the people still do it.
Yeah,
they still do it. Like people, like they be all. I'm like, dog, you really had to do the push-ups like right underneath me while I'm doing. Really? Like, I mean, I get you want to pay homage, you know what I'm saying, to the muscle gods. But, you know what I'm saying, not today, fam. Like, I mean, like, just get a foot. I don't know. Maybe it's people in the military. Maybe we just like being close to each other. I don't really know. I ain't really with it. But,
No.
you know, I think it goes, you know, into the human acceptance thing. You know, letting go of the anger and the resentment. Oh, my goodness. Because you know, it's funny. Because I go to the gym to decompress and work on my mental as well, you know what I mean? But sometimes you just get all angry and resentful and, you know, and that's hard. So, like, when you thought about this topic, acceptance and the importance of learning we're all human, where did that come from?
So that actually came from a lot of my sobriety journey last year. And then as I go back through and kind of dig back in a level deeper to some of the resentments that I held before in my past, whether it was to my family or different organizations or whatnot, and really like identify like what were my expectations of these things or these people. You know, I came to realize I was bringing myself a lot more unnecessary stress by having expectations that were unfair to have of other people. And because of that, it was affecting a lot of the things that I do. So last year when I had my show, my national show at North Americans in September, you know, like it was terrible. Lost, looked horrible. It was like great until the night before. And then everything just kind of came to a head, got into a fight with my ex, like just a bunch of variables happened. And basically like my mental, I mean, it was hanging on by a thread at that point and it was out the window, like by the time the night was over.
That's
and
real.
So after my coach and I had like a really long talk about it, you know, we decided that I was going to need a big off season, and it wasn't solely because of having to gain muscle or anything like that. Like, yeah, it was part of it. But the primary purpose of this off season was I had to get my head right. And in order to do that, I really had to look inside myself, you know, and ask why am I so neurotic? Like, why do I act the way that I do? Why do I get so bent around the axle about stupid things or things that people do? You know, why can't I just let go of stuff? And what I've come to realize like it wasn't their fault. Like that was my responsibility. Like some of the things that they did or like the way that things were handled, like no, I couldn't control that. But what could I control? I could control my reaction to it. I could control my mindset about it. And, I started learning that what I needed was more grace for people. Because, I was being kind of a hypocrite. I would want all the grace in the world, but I wasn't having grace for others, and realizing that people are people. And so everybody's on a different part of their journey. And some people will get further along on that in their life than other people will. But because of that, you have to meet people where they are. It doesn't mean that you have to excuse behavior. It doesn't mean that if they're doing something wrong, like you have to condone it. But what that basically means is you have to realize that as humans, we are imperfect people. And so to set unreasonable expectations on others, it is setting us up for failure and disappointment. And so what I wanted to go with this topic is realizing, a lot of the anger and resentments that we hold is because we were let down, and we were let down because we had unreasonable expectations of other people in the first place.
Yeah. And it's hard because that takes personal accountability, right? Because you also have to reflect on yourself as well, because you talked about how you wanted, you wanted grace, but you didn't want to lend that grace to other people.
Yep.
And a lot of times I find myself, being slow to speak in a lot of ways and just listening, because sometimes it's just better for me not to open my mouth, because I believe in like pure accountability. And so some of the things that I say can rub people wrong because they're just not at that phase in their journey, and they may never get there. You know what I mean? But you building up resentment because they're not putting in the work, not doing the work, only hurts you, right? And hurts your relationship with them, right? Like some people just, they want to be, subpar. They won't say it, they won't admit it, but their actions, say that, hey, this is who I am. This is what I want to do. And I think that the key to that also is learning self-acceptance, understanding that your journey is your journey. And so what has been your journey, as far as walking into self-acceptance based off of, a past of resentment and anger?
Yeah, for me, I've really had to learn a lot of and identify a lot of my own fears. A lot of the resentments I had were expectations I had, and those expectations were because I was fearful of, and then various things, fear of feeling unheard, fear of, not being valued, fear of being abandoned. All of these things were things like growing up, fears that I had, fears of being alone. And so when anybody would do something that would make me feel like that was going to happen, that was when I would have an unnecessary reaction. And that's when I would get angry, or that's when I would get resentful.
Okay.
And so, I had to realize, hey, I have all of these fears. Why do I have that? Where is it coming from? Is that actually logical? Is that something reasonable to have? And then also having to realize that, I'm a very emotional person. I'm very sensitive. I hated that. Like, I hated the fact when I was little that, my family would tell me I was so sensitive, or you were too sensitive, or you like whatever. And so I always looked at sensitivity as a weakness. And, through self-acceptance, I realized that there are instances that if I allow it to be, it can certainly be a weakness. But I've also learned that sensitivity is what has allowed me to connect so easily to other people in ways that others can't do that. Like, just naturally can't do that.
Yeah.
But with that, it's when you have to realize that some of these things that are your strengths, depending on how you use them, they can be a weakness. And just because, you are built a certain way, it doesn't make it bad. Sensitivity in the military is not exactly like, it's kind of frowned upon. So, coming from a family where like, it's just not really a whole lot of sensitive people, and then going into the military, it's not a place to be a sensitive person. And then having to drop my ego and be like, yeah, like this is me. I am sensitive. And
well, and I think a lot of times with that, you have a lot of people who are actually really sensitive, and they're so sensitive that they tell you to bottle up your emotions. But that shows you actually how sensitive they really are. to change. To the things that we need to be talking about, right? To mistakes, right? A lot of times when people are like, "Don't be sensitive," no, like now we need, and it's unfortunate because a lot of great leaders get forced out because of, different things that they've gone through, right? And I can't blame them, for them not wanting to sit and bask in the trauma that is a part of that. And it's important for us as leaders to look at it like, hey, like we need to be having different conversations. A lot of what they're talking about now is more so servant leadership and being empathetic. They're putting out, a lot of different, command climate surveys of, okay, maybe we don't need to go balls to the walls 24/7, and maybe them getting the thing done is good enough, right? Because a certain amount of battle rhythm actually takes away from your mental health, no matter what they tell you. It's like that is not normal for a human being to function and run operations 24/7, 365 days a year. And we've paid the toll on that, And I think as leaders, we have to understand, like, because even though you're out, you're still a leader. People still look up to you. They look to you for guidance because you've got a bunch of leadership skills and abilities that like people they're going to gravitate to. And it's amazing that you are using your sensitivities to guide people in the right direction, because sometimes they just need a shoulder to cry on or somebody to talk to vent about those things. And so when it comes down to it, what, as far as human acceptance, you know what I mean, like accepting that you're human, how do you get past mistakes and accept those and use those to grow?
It's one of those things that, again, it's like you have to realize that because of the fact that you're human, we all try to get told that we need to chase perfection. And realistically, again, it's not a realistic expectation. What we do need to chase is progress. And if you can learn to chase progress over perfection, you realize that progress is a never-ending process. And then because of that, you realize that in process, the ways that you learn the most are usually out of mistakes and failures and setbacks. And so the biggest thing is like, what is this mistake that I made? Could I have prevented this? Was this something that I knowingly did, like on purpose? And, being real with yourself and realizing that, like, if that's the case, like, I need to check myself. I need to check my attitude. I need to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Like, that's not the kind of person I want to be. On the other hand, you have mistakes that are like legitimate mistakes, like things fall through the cracks. There are things that happen. And it's just stuff that you weren't ready for. It wasn't something you had faced. And so you get kind of put into a situation where, you find yourself doing things and making decisions that you would have never thought you would have made. And then realizing like, crap, like I am human. This can happen to me. This is not okay. Yeah. So again, like I could beat myself up continuously and use all my energy to continue to beat myself up. Or on the flip side, I can ask myself, how did I get myself into this position? You know, what were the flags? What were the actions that I took that got me from where I was to where I am at now? And then once you identify those, you kind of see a pattern. And then as you go in the future, we're creatures of habit. You'll start seeing some of those patterns come back. And if you know where that leads, you're like, oh, snap. No, like I need to change directions.
That's right.
So it's okay to make mistakes. It's not okay to make the same mistake repeatedly.
Yeah. Well, and that's the cool part about life is life will show you the cards, you know what I'm saying, that you put in the pile that time, and then you come up with a system to kind of make sure that we don't get as far off track. Some of my greatest successes happened, when I really felt like I dropped the ball on certain things, right? When I really felt like I wasn't bringing my best that day. And I'm like, because I didn't bring my best that day, I feel like this. And I never want to feel like this again. Yep. So guess what we're going to start doing? We're going to start changing our habits. We're going to start systemizing the things that we can systemize. We're going to start executing with empathy towards ourselves and other people. And on the other side of that, that completely changed my life. And so that's huge. You're going to make mistakes, y'all. Keep at it. Keep making adjustments. Keep learning from, the small things, because the small things equal to big things. Eventually you look up, you have this portfolio of great things, right? So keep working on those things. This has been another episode of 𝗖𝗥 𝗖𝗡 𝗢𝗥. You know what I'm saying? We appreciate y'all tapping in. Tap in for the next episode. We just gonna keep it coming. We want y'all to really, hone in and focus on your mental health. Make sure that you're doing the things that take care of you while also looking out for other people. If you
You
want to
want to
go
go
fast,
fast,
go
go
alone.
alone.
But if you
Yeah.
want to go far, go together.
Yep.
Robbie, forgive me, please. I've been up since 2 a.m.
You're forgiven. Forgiven. I'll show you grace.
Anyway, this has been another episode of 𝗖𝗥 𝗖𝗢𝗡. We appreciate y'all tapping in. Robbie J, it's been a complete pleasure once again. Thank you for coming on the network. And I am Tommy.
I'm Robbie.
And this is 𝗖𝗥 𝗖𝗢𝗡 Podcast. We appreciate y'all.